Star Trek has given us a long line of unforgettable captains: Kirk, Sisko, Janeway, Archer, Burnham. But if we're being honest, none of them captured the heart, mind, and soul of Starfleet the way Captain Jean-Luc Picard did. He wasn't just a commanding officer, he was the embodiment of what the Federation should be: thoughtful, principled, brave, and deeply, deeply human. Let's start with what made him different. Kirk, he was bold, a little reckless, and quick with a punch or a kiss. Sisko, a warrior, a builder of legacies. Janeway, determined, clever, and resourceful to the end. But Picard? Picard led with restraint. He made you lean in when he spoke. He didn't raise his voice, he raised your awareness. His power wasn't in dominance, it was in discipline, and that discipline was forged in hardship. He wasn't born a leader, he became one. He grew up in La Barre, France, thus under a strict father who didn't want him to join Starfleet. And yet, he defied expectations. He studied, trained, and earned his command the hard way. He rose through the ranks not with favors or flash, but with excellence. And his scars, they weren't just physical, they were spiritual. Let's talk about the best of both worlds. The Borg didn't just capture Picard. They violated him. They turned him into Locutus, a mouthpiece for the collective, a weapon against his own people. He watched as Starfleet officers died by the thousands because of him. And yet he came back. Not all at once, not completely whole, but he came back with humility, with trauma, with humanity. And that made him stronger, more compassionate, more self-aware. In today's world, that kind of quiet resilience is rare. But Picard modeled it with grace, and his belief in diplomacy, unshakable. He was the kind of man who would spend an entire episode trying to talk his way through a conflict. Not because he was soft, but because he believed words could do more than weapons. Remember the Temerians? Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, a species that communicated entirely in metaphor. Most captains would have opened fire or walked away. Picard risked his life to understand them, to meet them on their terms. And in doing so, he reminded us that real leadership means listening, even when the language is unfamiliar. But make no mistake, Picard wasn't passive. He could be fierce when the moment called for it. When facing the Romulans or the Cardassians or even rogue elements within Starfleet, he never wavered in defending his values. He stood toe-to-toe with admirals, politicians, and enemies who tried to compromise the ideals of the Federation. And every time, he chose principle over politics. One of his most underrated qualities, the way he nurtured the people around him. Data, the android seeking humanity, found a mentor in Picard who treated him as more than a machine. Worf, the first Klingon in Starfleet, was allowed to grow, to fail, to find himself. Even Wesley Crusher, often the butt of jokes, had in Picard a reluctant but ultimately supportive father figure. He didn't coddle his crew, but he challenged them. He believed in them. And unlike many captains, Picard never stopped evolving. In Star Trek Picard, we saw an older, weathered man grappling with regret, with the consequences of inaction, with a Starfleet he no longer recognized. And yet, even in retirement, he couldn't sit idle. When others turned away from refugees, from injustice, from lost causes, Picard stood up, even without a ship, even without a crew. That tells you everything. And let's be real, how many times did this man save the galaxy? We'd need a second video just to count. From Q's twisted trials, to time loops, to alternate futures, to ancient artifacts that could rewrite reality, Picard always found a way. Not through luck, through logic, through leadership, through character. Even Q, the all-powerful trickster, saw Picard as humanity's best shot. Their relationship wasn't just about chaos, it was about growth. Q tested Picard because he believed in him. He saw in him the potential for greatness, and Picard lived up to it every time. He didn't need omnipotent powers to change the universe. He just needed a starship, a mission, and a code. At the end of the day, Picard wasn't just a captain. He was a philosopher king in space, a man who quoted Shakespeare, sipped Earl Grey, and carried the weight of countless lives without letting it crush his soul. He was calm in crisis, stern in chaos, compassionate without being naive. And if there's a better example of what Starfleet stands for, I haven't seen it. So the next time someone asks you, Kirk or Picard, you know what to say. Make it so.